This is Kazway Cassiopeia. You are listening to 108live.radio. Hi there, welcome to 108live.radio. This is Kazway Cassiopeia. I'm a tarot card reader, artist, creator, and publisher of tarot. I'm also a psychologist and energy healer. I have my own practice in Johannesburg, South Africa as a life coach. I'd like to welcome you to my show, Interactive Tarot. The show is not only about tarot cards, although bits and pieces of tarot-related topics will be covered. Along with carrying out live tarot readings, it is just simply full of insights of a way of life, philosophy, science, and spirituality, most of the time involving guests who are in the field of health, wellness, and or spirituality. If you have any question or suggestion, please contact me by emailing to mail@cassiopeia.com. Cassiopeia is spelled Kashiopia. You can also check out my website, www.cassiopeia.com. Interactive Tarot is aired every Friday from 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. live here on 108live.radio. Stay tuned in. So our weekly guest here today is Juan.
That's correct.
Really, like I thought your name must be pronounced Juan, but I was like, it does, you don't look Latino, so Juan. Okay, Afrikaans. I still need to learn my Afrikaans in South Africa. So you're welcome.
Thank you.
Cool. And Juan is. You're in the transition of a career from doing a life coaching. Now you're into teaching, writing books, and
Yes, not life coaching as such. I originally really started practicing out holistic therapies. And from there on, things progressed due to my work with clients and so forth and so forth.
Cool. We'll definitely be talking about that. And the other guest is Atma. Hi, Atma.
I'm just part of the furniture.
Well, you're not a furniture. He's the producer of this radio station, and he's always with us. So I usually start the show talking a little bit about tarot. And it doesn't, it's supposed to cover all sorts of topics from here and there. And I'm thinking of talking about cards that come out upside down. Some people consider, well, it doesn't have to be upside down. What is considered to be negative cards, like death card, or those what people consider is like, I don't want that card in my reading because that's going to be my fate. Like that sort of a misunderstood cards. Well, actually, there is nothing bad in tarot deck. It's just like life. There's nothing bad. It's just that it's a gateway to where you're supposed to pay what you're supposed to attention to, or where you're supposed to go. So it depends on the person's interpretation. If people think certain card to be so negative and daunting, that's what is gonna come to them. Whereas if you can take it as that's where I'm supposed to pay attention to, and that's where universe is trying to give us a guidance, they can turn it around. And now we'll start talking about what you do, what you are experiencing in the past. I totally believe that negativity definitely exists. Like Buddha says that, you can't get away from suffering in life. But it really depends on how we take it, isn't it?
In my experience, and I'm not an expert on tarot like you are, of course, what I've experienced with various modalities, including tarot, seeing the cards the other way around or upside down, it's not negative necessarily. It's about an opportunity for healing.
Yeah.
If we also look at Carl Jung's archetypes, we can find a lot of the major arcana in Carl Jung's archetypes, or opportunities for healing. So it really depends on your perspective. It's like the one person standing on the one side of the table and the one on the other side, one saying, oh, it's a 6, oh no, it's a 9. But somebody from the side gives you a totally different perspective.
Yeah, exactly. So, and I think life coaching or, healing processes all work in the same way. I definitely don't consider tarot to be the only way, but it was definitely something that came to me, that it's a tool that I can use, that I resonate with. So, I understand what you resonate most. Like, what is your, like, core?
Well, my resonance definitely would be in new thought thinking, kind of based ways of doing, thinking, living. Also, because of my background, I have an interest in comparative religion. Therefore, it made new thought thinking very interesting for me. And like so many of us, I was exposed to Louise Hay's classic, You Can Heal Your Life.
Sure.
And one of the lessons I really embraced through all of her teachings was that whenever we go through a situation in life, or something about another person annoys us or irritates us or angers us, you have to look within to see what your patterns are.
Yeah, like what is the reflection?
What is the reflection and what is it that I need to be healed? So I've really tried to push that lesson with my students and clients, and I've been spending 15 years applying that lesson to my life, relating it back to the tarot, of course, cards in reverse. What's the pattern within me that the cards are reflecting me? What are my opportunities for healing?
Yeah.
So I've really say that's the basis of my work as it's evolved over the years and going forward from this point on.
And you're publishing your book. Well, it's coming out soon, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Quite nervous about that.
Are you?
Excited
Why?
at the same time.
Why would you be nervous? It's already written.
Well, not completely yet, in process. I guess it's the thing of being vulnerable.
Okay.
As healers, we all come from a background of pain usually. We come from a
yes.
background of darkness. It's about embracing the pain. It's about sharing my own very deeply personal healing journey with the reader. That, of course, makes me feel vulnerable.
Okay, well, that makes sense.
But
yes.
I'm also sharing different tools in the book on what are your hidden patterns? What can you do to become whole? And relating it yet back again to your tarot, of course. Upside down cards, what are the hidden patterns? What are we
Yes.
not seeing?
Yeah. Yeah, usually the triggers, negativities that other people cause are blessings. I'm still
The
human.
triggers. The triggers, yes.
And, I'm still just a human being. My buttons can be pushed too. Although I'm trying to tell myself, okay, love and light, it's like at the same time, it's okay, where is the point of becoming a pushover? Well, as long as we consider we are being pushed, then we're not being true to, it's like we have to be true to ourselves. So if we are we feel we are being pushed, important thing is that we shouldn't suppress ourselves and just go into that and deal with, whatever that trigger is causing us to feel. Whereas ignoring pain it's no solution to anything. Triggers occur for a reason.
One of my earliest teachers who actually introduced me to the work of Louise Hay, introduced me to energy healing modalities as such. In the course, she gave us a very nice little exercise about your triggers. And if you're triggered by a person or a situation over and over and over, pour yourself a bath. Get in that bath and examine what your triggers are. You do not get out of the bath till you've actually figured out what your triggers are. I also teach people, my students, my clients, that allowing somebody to walk over you, that's not masterful at all.
No, exactly.
I always say, it's not what you say, it's how you say it.
Yeah.
Open communication resolves just about anything.
And once you are healed, then those triggers won't be a trigger anymore. And you're not being a pushover because you are not getting pushed. It's that gap between, still having the triggers within to getting over the trigger. That's where people need help from, people like us, healers.
Yes, in actual fact, us the healers, I always tell my students, what qualifies me to sit here in front of you as a teacher? I probably have more issues than all of you in the room.
Oh,
That's simply the only difference.
That's cool. That's a very, very good way of putting it. And some people get ashamed of experiencing pain. I was like, no, you know what? It allows us to relate to people. It's like, okay, I'm not saying more pain's welcome.
No, definitely not.
Yeah, it's like I have had it enough. I think what more do I need to learn? It's like if a pain is presented to me, it's like okay, obviously I haven't learned, But as much as I don't necessarily want to experience them anymore, but I'm grateful for the experience because it really allows, opens the door of empathy and compassion and love and light. What it feels like coming from the dark place, and from a dark place to see the light, and actually feeling the joy of going into the light.
Yes, definitely. With regards to triggers, my feeling is that, all right, I've done so much work on myself already. Let's say, for example, not feeling good enough. The classic example.
Very classic example.
I've been doing years of work on myself with that. I've been doing this for 15 years now, healing. I am good enough, or no, I'm not good enough. In writing the book, I found that same trigger coming up in me.
Okay.
However, there's a lot more depth to the trigger. So the healing has gone to a much deeper level.
Yes.
Healing, as we know, is not an end destination. It's a journey.
It's a journey.
With a lot of gifts.
Yeah.
So I'm enjoying the journey.
Yeah, for sure. They say that, or people say that, one of the best way of learning is actually teaching.
Correct.
Because you can't cheat teaching. You can cheat learning. You can get stuck at the intellectual level of understanding a theory if you are just learning. But if you have to teach, you got to have it within. The knowledge has to turn into wisdom in order to actually be the content to be helpful to others.
One of also my earlier teachers, who in actual fact introduced me to family constellations and transgenerational healing, taught me something very valuable, where he said, right, you've done these courses now, throw away the books. That's when you start learning and growing. Then I started teaching, and oh my word, my students were my greatest challenges.
Oh, I bet, yeah.
But they were my greatest teachers, and I've learned so much from them, and I still continue. However, as my students will tell you, and my clients, I stay with my point that trigger in you is something to be healed in you. Sometimes my students haven't really loved me for that, but I've stayed with that principle, and it's worked for me over the years, and it's worked for my students and clients. So there's always another level of healing we can go to.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, we are love and light. That's what we were. We got our body. Ego is necessary to protect this fragile, body that goes rotten if we don't take care of it. So we need ego, but it definitely clashes with love and light. Ego is for protection, but it's like a extreme guard dog that will bark at anything and everything that tries to come through, comes to the property. And it can't really tell the difference between which is the enemy and which is a friend.
I personally feel that the concept of ego is misunderstood. My ego is that ego can either be a guard dog, like you've mentioned, I mean, ego is what keeps my physical body safe.
Yes.
When I may be hijacked, I can't sit there and go, oh, love, light, healing, and wisdom to you too. I mean, my ego keeps me safe.
Yes.
That's also with intuition. Why do we have intuition? It's an early warning system.
Yeah, absolutely.
But there is, yes, the other side of ego, the dark side, the shadow side of ego.
yeah.
And we need
yeah.
to be able to differentiate between when is this my ego keeping me safe, secure, or when is this my ego maybe allowing for my triggers to come up.
Yeah, like it is about self-awareness. It's taming that dog. That okay, well that one is okay. You don't have to be triggered by that. Okay, you need to just bark at that dangerous thing. So yeah, I think it is about self-awareness and.
Definitely, self-awareness to me was on my path with my students and clients. I think that's a lot of what I've tried to teach them over the years. My healing, my students' healing, my clients' healing, I don't think any healer's healing would be possible without self-awareness
of that particular person. You can try to do as much energy healing as possible, but if that person doesn't go deep within him or herself and realize what is really blocking the healing, maybe they don't want to actually be healed. They don't want to get rid of their identity, the identity that they have been holding on to for a long time, that, hey, I'm a victim, I'm hurt. If they have that as identity, it's very difficult to let go. But no healers, no teachers can do anything about it until that person actually lets it go. And, I do learn from my clients too that, it's not that I'm a healer and I want to heal the whole entire world. Like, I'm not bigoted like that. But when I encounter clients who actually don't want to, it's like, okay, it's not my issue. It's not. It's the journey of that person actually.
I think as therapists, healers, practitioners, and I'm talking all the way from the surgeon right down to the caregiver and each and everybody in between, the rescuer archetype in us steps in.
Yeah,
because
it does, yes.
we've been through what we've been through. We want to rescue. In an attempt to rescue, we actually end up disempowering that person.
Yeah.
And that's a perfect example of our ego as healers now coming up.
Yes.
So one of my most recent teachers I've been working with, I'm always learning, studying new things. You always hear me talking about different teachers. Is quite adamant, and I've also been quite adamant on this throughout the years, that you cannot go into healing if you've not been healed to a certain point yourself. Otherwise, you get triggered. And again, the ego comes up.
Yeah.
So it's not about rescuing everybody.
No.
We wish we could, but we
Sure.
can't.
No, we can't. We have to be able to accept what, things as it is.
We all have to also go through our own lessons. So it's also a thing of sometimes standing back as a healer, practitioner, as difficult as it may be, and honoring that person's path. And what's scary is that so many of us think we know what the lesson for that person is. We know what that person's path is.
Do we know about ourselves then?
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So there's still so much judgment going around with regards to spirituality.
Oh yeah. And those who, those people who pursue the path of spirituality, there are so many wannabe gurus. And also when they become a highly initiated or whatever, they can start turning arrogant. Their ego becomes even bigger by pursuing spirituality, so to speak, at higher level.
It's the story of the priest and the baker. Who is the most spiritual person there? The reason I'm bringing that up is because, coming from my background, I come from an extremely religious background.
You mean Christianity?
Which was also very traumatic And we would go to church, and on a Sunday afternoon, we would come home from church, doors would be slammed, parents would be fighting. And my stepfather was a priest in the church. That's not spirituality to me. The baker, however, may not be at church on a Sunday morning,
Yeah.
busy baking the bread for Sunday Mass.
Yeah.
So, for who is it to judge another person's level of spirituality, spiritual evolution, spiritual knowledge, spiritual wisdom?
There is absolute difference between being religious to being spiritual. I think
Correct.
nowadays more people are really realizing it more and more. However, I went to school in the States. Well, actually in Utah. Well, Utah is in the States, but Utah is such a Mormon community. You know what Mormon is?
Yes, I do.
Do you? Okay.
My spouse recently had some of his colleagues go over there. I think Atlanta, Atlantic City, maybe around about that area. Am I correct?
No,
Or
it's
maybe
like
wrong?
It's southwest, next to
Okay.
Nevada.
Oh, right.
And Mormon is, yeah, I think it's safe to say it's Christian cult.
Well, I really don't want to sit here and actually say that out loud, but
Then don't. But yeah,
there's definitely dogma involved. I think I'd rather like to use that word.
Oh, dogma.
Much safer for us.
Sorry, I hope there is no Mormon people listening, but hey, I went through some experience and
yeah.
it really, really traumatized me from religion itself.
That was
All
the thing
sorts.
with me. It was, look, I don't have an issue with any religion per se.
No, me
One of my
neither.
interests is comparative religion, and I'm also a huge follower of the work of Ernest Holmes, The Science of Mind. And in Science of Mind, it's really about taking the best of everything. I think what was scary for me as a child, and for so many other people out there, is the dogma.
Dogma.
The fire, the
Yes.
brimstone, the judgment, thou shalt not. And if we go and look at the historical context in which many of those texts were written, the meaning conveyed is absolutely something different, which is why I took so well to, for example, New Thought thinking via Louise A, coming from a background where it was drilled into me, God is the Word. So when Louise A spoke about affirmations having creative power, that was me stepping out of religious dogma and fear into a place of becoming a lot more empowered spiritually. So for me, the difference would be religion, there's dogma, there's rules to follow. Spirituality for me is about finding my own path.
Absolutely, and that's that's how, as you say, spirituality should be. And I feel that even Christianity actually started that way by Jesus Christ. That he wanted people to have the freedom of pursuing their own path to God, their own path of showing love. So I definitely find Christianity a beautiful religion, and it's one of my favorites. However, because I've been burned by very dogmatic sect of a religion, that's probably how I should say it.
I would also say that I come from a dogmatic sect in the
But
strict term of the word.
what a great blessing it was actually to be shown that very strict, dogmatic, controlling environment. Now that we can, have popped out from that environment and see the freedom of spirituality, and find we can see God in our own view.
For me, I was terrified when the self-awareness in me started growing. I remember at 16 years old being taken up in the church as such. And I stood there at 16 and I went, I really don't know what I'm doing right now. I really don't know if I want to devote my life to God at 16. Really, this is scary. I mean, there were other things I was thinking of doing, but of course, we want to please the parents.
Sure.
So yes, coming from that background, when the self-awareness grew, I literally went through days of thinking lightning is going to strike me and I am going to burn in hell. And then as time went on, I saw, but listen, lightning hasn't struck yet. My house hasn't burnt down. I'm not dying from some strange disease. And I went, oh, it may be safe to explore it a bit more. And I took the next step. Okay, lightning didn't strike again. Taking the next step. So yeah, it is really a blessing. Driving here this morning, I was thinking about life as it's been, childhood years, the teenage years. And I remember recently a friend and I had a conversation about how do you know you're healed? And except for writing and there isn't any more emotional pain attached to the writing, I'm sure I'll discover something else along the way to heal. It's for me, it's when you can take the gifts and the wisdom.
Yes.
So for me, my religion of birth, with New Thought-based thinking, science of mind, teachings, unity, things like those, it gave me a very unique view. And yes, it did give me with a lot.
I really, really resonate with that. And I can only be grateful for the experience. As you know, not too many people get to have that experience, if you know what I mean. There are plenty, don't get me wrong.
I can arrange it for them.
No, it's okay. No, like if they are healed, that's cool. It's like no, you keep your. 'Cause I have gotten I also have to deal with my Japanese-ness, you know. So yeah, I feel that's what I'm gonna be doing in my life. That Japanese lack.
I was actually going to ask, tell me a bit more about that again. That sounds interesting.
Well, you know, Japan is traditionally a very spiritual country. Maybe not religious, but could have been religious too. But it was basically very spiritual. The country's national religion is Shintoism.
I know Shintoism.
And which means there are, particularly there are 8 million gods. But it's not gods, actually 8 million spirits. And more connotationally speaking, it just means a lot. So anything and everything contains spirit. So what's important is that actually having that love and light and respect to anything and everything, to nature, to people, to animals, to plants, to stones, you know, everything is an energy, everything is a spirit. So that's the foundation of a Japanese culture, Japanese tradition. So that has been going on for thousands of years. However, about 20 years ago, there was somebody in Japan who like when I say cult in this sense, it's like a really, really mean, like a horrible cult. This guy came up with this cult religion, and he actually tried to convince people that he is the ultimate guru. He poisoned one station, like he spread poison at one of subway stations in Tokyo, and it killed people. And has only been like 25 years since then, but it has basically contaminated the idea of spirituality and religion in Japan. If you talk about something like that, it becomes very much labeled that you are dangerous.
Yes, growing up, I think life has shown me that there is a very deep, very dark, very dangerous side to religion.
Yes.
You were a trained psychologist, as far as I understand, right? And I grew up with psychopaths. And guess where those psychopaths were? On a Sunday, they were in church, teaching the flock.
This is such a very borderline conversation that is going on here today.
Actually, it's been like an ongoing thing here throughout the week.
Yeah, you too.
So, we were talking about the conversation around religion. It's like the conversation around gun control. Right.
Well, that's a whole different topic, but yes.
Yeah, right. If you were to just think about religion in that sense. Religion in itself is a tool. It's basically practices and rituals and all that. But weaponized religion is dangerous.
Religion, I don't think ever was meant to be weaponized.
Yes.
And
No,
I
it
think
was
that's
a
why
guidance.
why spirituality, I think, is really
I was just about
spreading
to
like
get to
wildfire now, because we're taking people out of the fear, out of the dogma, out of the thou shalt do this, thou shalt not do that. And we're empowering people with tools like tarot, like understanding Carl Jung's archetypes,
Yes.
like
No, like what I was just about to say, weaponized religion is usually attached to politics and not spirituality.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
correct.
If you look at these things, these restrictions were put in place for a political sense, for a particular religious body to gain control politically. So things like tarot, things like anything else that's outside of this, if you could say, weaponized religion, was seen as terrible. I mean, there's been genocide for things like that,
Yeah.
you know, where it was you get a bang on the door, somebody's there dressed in chain mail or whatever, and they're like, do you believe in the one true God? You're like, no, your whole family is
gets burned as
You
witches.
see,
Yeah.
so weaponized religion, as the Vedic experience would explain, is trying to enjoy separate from the absolute truth, which is inclusive of the spiritual reality.
That's a profound saying.
You see, so weaponized religion, you would say, is largely materialistic, and that's where now you will find mental health, mental illness, a whole lot of illness, basically, because it's incomplete. And it's almost like a dark place for all the fungi to grow and all those funky things. Yeah.
I think that's what a lot of my work is from this point on, going forward, is that if we look at the new thought-based thinking teachings, Jesus there actually is seen as the way shower or the light bringer. And it really was about, like Louise Hay says, the power of the spoken word, but more so the power of the mind. We all have the ability to create miracles and magic. So I think something which was, if we go back to mystical Christianity even, which was meant to empower people, remind us of our link with Source, we've lost that in organized religion, whereas on the spiritual path, people are seeking a spiritual connection, but from a different source. I'd actually like to go as far and say a safe source, in actual fact.
Yeah, because a lot of people have been abused by weaponized religion.
Oh yes,
and even
definitely.
now, it even works to the point where whoever is weaponizing it to the point of discrediting it is encouraging people to get rid of it, because that is the culture today, where now you have somebody who's saying is spiritual and not religious. But then what does that mean? In the Vedic perspective, it actually explains that the two go hand in hand.
It should.
You see,
It
they
really
go hand in
should.
hand. You may say you're not religious, but the fact that you wake up in the morning early at whatever time, do your meditation, take a certain thing or whatever, that is religious in itself, because it's a set path of practice and ritual.
And you know, in Latin, the word religion comes from a word Latin, from the word in Latin, religare or something like that, and it means like a return, going back. So it is that ritual, it is that pattern that you have, that faith that brings you back to the origin. So
original identity. I was just about to get to ego and false ego.
and then
How
that
to get over false ego. Things like that. Yeah. So, hectic. I lost my train of thought.
So yeah, you were saying that the people, you know, do their own thing, and that becomes like a religious thing.
Yeah, actually, it's explained that in this yuga or this millennia, irreligion will be seen as religion, and religion will be seen as irreligion.
I think what's interesting for me is the link between religion and spirituality. So if we go and look at the World Encyclopedia of Religion, and we look at what is defined as a religion, we'll see usually there are three types of criteria. One being belief in a higher power. Secondly, the willingness to do good unto yourself and unto man. And then also worship through ritual, sing, song, and so forth. Now, if we look at religion and we look at spirituality, we'll see that both actually share that.
Well, I was gonna
So
say.
what is a religion? What is spirituality? I've always considered myself a dualist, so I always like integrating and blending things together.
Actually, if we go a little deeper, then the word religion or the presentation of the idea of the thing goes out the window altogether. Then we attach to ourselves to what is known as dharma in Sanskrit, right? That describes the innate nature of a thing. You have your dharma. You're a person, you create in a certain way, like how you have different artists who express themselves in different ways. Like the dharma of water is to be fluid, to flow from a high place, so on and so forth, clear, quench thirst, things like that. So as a spirit soul, we all have our moods, if you may, as unique beings.
That makes sense.
Right? So now, as a unique being, you have your particular work. You do particular things.
See,
like how I
you
like
know, like-
music and I like that and like this. So now in attaching my nature to exploring the spiritual dynamic or reality, then that becomes my, if you could,
Yup.
then for lack of a better word, religion.
Now, I get that perfectly. I mean, it's like a lot of times I've been sitting in the class teaching my students, and I sat there and I felt this feels like a religion.
Yeah.
And some days it actually scared me. I was like, okay, I don't want this to be a religion. It's just what I've learned and I've taught. So I really actually get that. It's like somebody playing a violin
Yeah.
day in, day out.
Yeah.
It becomes their religion, their spirituality. And it's interesting how shortly before that person will get onto stage to perform, they will often tell you that they're going in front of these mass of people. And in that moment, they feel the most spiritually connected they've actually ever felt.
Oh yes, yes. Yeah.
But the danger in that as well is in doing that or experiencing that separate from the Supreme Personality of God. That's where now the darkness comes in.
Yeah,
Because if you look at let's say for example, look at artists, right? Most artists who let's say musicians, for example, even painters and the like, they feel spiritually connected, like you said, when they do performing their work and all that, and then the capitalistic construct comes in and snatches you, and you're like, oh yes, now I can do it for a wider audience. But then you overlook the ball and chain that's been attached to your act.
I
of kind
think
of
lately
thing, you know?
for me, that's interesting you mentioned that, mentioning that, because lately for me, I've been doing a lot of self-studying, reading, becoming self-aware of, with my career going forward, how do I stay out of my ego? And it's a thing of just staying focused on the question every morning, every day, every minute, every week, every month, every year, how can I serve? If you focus on that, I feel that so much will take care of itself
Oh
anyway.
yes, yeah, it does. But how do you stay away from our own ego? It's a big question.
I think
and
our own false ego,
yeah,
Yes.
yes,
Yes.
definitely.
Yes.
because you can't stay away from.
No, we can't stay away from like ego itself to that we need to protect ourselves. A few years back, well, almost 10 years ago, I went to Mountain Takao Mountain in Japan, where how can I explain, like a special type of monks, like a martial art monks, if you know what I mean, train.
I think I've seen that.
Yeah, like it's like you would know, like you have watched enough manga or like Japanese animation, so you would know these figures. But like they dress in white kimono, has like a particular accessories and jewelry. Well, not jewelry, but they're all symbolic stuff. But they do, they train.
Like the Dragon Ball Z kind of.
That kind of
guys.
thing,
Oh,
yes,
yes.
yes,
All
that
right.
kind
Like
of people.
Piccolo.
Love
Yeah.
that show.
Yeah, those kind of people, they actually train. And you actually can have some experience, like, sitting under the waterfall and chant to dragon god and, the dragon deity. And you can have a cool experience like that. And I really wanted to pursue that practice. And I was asked the question, why do you want to do it? And I just didn't have the answer because it was like, I thought that's my journey. It was just like being.
Because it's cool.
Because it's cool, yes. I was going to say the same.
Well, I was like, and I couldn't really say like, yeah, like I couldn't say because it's cool or like because it feels like really my path. And I gave a stupid answer saying for the enlightenment, and he looked at me and said, enlightenment is the easy bit. It's afterwards that you're gonna have to learn a lot. And I thought, I think I still need a lot of preparation before I can start training on the mountain.
But isn't enlightenment self-awareness, a greater sense of self-awareness?
And there are layers to enlightenment. We keep we can have one enlightenment. To maintain it is one thing, but there are different levels. Higher,
It's like
higher
healing your
levels.
triggers.
Yeah.
So you're going deeper.
I believe so.
It's almost like the most important, very important thing that I almost said Juan. Almost said
In
Juan.
Europe and in the USA, I respond to that, so
Yeah,
it's
so
fine.
it's
No
Jean,
problem there.
Is it
John, that's the
Jean.
correct spelling.
Jean.
Well, correct pronunciation.
Okay, so the service attitude is very important because
Sure.
it's explained that the nature of the spirit soul is service. You can even see it on a daily basis. You wake up. Some people keep dogs. Some people get a loved one. Some people are gardeners. Some people we have to serve. You see, if you're not serving anything physically, you'll serve your mind. You'll serve your senses. That's why some people end up binging. So the service mood or the nature of the ability to serve actually is there. It's attached to us. It's our nature.
We've also seen that people are happiest when they are serving
they
others.
Yeah,
We've seen that.
but without any ulterior motive.
Yes, that's where the big difference comes in.
Yeah. I think I started saying earlier that we come from a love and light. And through enlightenment, we actually go back to that state, and that's the journey. It's almost like a falling from the paradise, and we have to bring ourselves up to the paradise, and as you say, awareness, self-awareness, enlightenment, and that happens on daily basis, hourly basis, or constantly.
I also think something that people sometimes don't understand is with regards to service, it's like a spiritual practice. It's something you have to engage in daily. It's like if you do yoga and you really want to do yoga, you do yoga every day.
Yeah.
It's the same for me with service. I think Atma, you may be able to correct me if need be. Bhakti, right? Selfless service.
Yes.
The concept of that.
But it goes a little deeper, actually, bhakti. Actually, it's explained that bhakti yoga, which is considered the topmost yoga, is what all these other yogas actually need to be relevant, if you could say. If you look at the word yoga itself, originally pronounced yog, it means to connect, and ultimately to connect with what? Your higher self, and ultimately the supreme self. So, Jnana yoga, Hatha yoga, which is we see is very popular nowadays, these stretches and all that, is useless if there's no bhakti in there. So bhakti means devotion, basically, love and devotion.
Oh,
Yeah,
no.
I think-
Christianity, they say that faith is most important. I mean, it's the same thing.
Christianity is based on love and devotion.
Absolutely.
Just
yeah.
like spirituality, many spiritual practices. I've found, and I've also told my clients and students this in their own work, it's great if you can actually dedicate your work to, call it whatever you want, a higher source, a higher deity.
Yeah.
I particularly resonate with the medicine Buddha. So every now and then I'll go to the temple and make my offerings, and I'll ask, please keep me out of my ego, please bless my work. Because it gives you something higher to work for, to strive for. from a place of devoting yourself to something from a space of love.
I like how he brought in the aspect of form of this higher being. This higher being actually does have form, and one of his many forms is Buddha.
Oh, if we were talking about Shintoism earlier with their million deities, and I think you must be
8
very
million.
busy. So,
I'm just thinking
but
about
Hinduism
that, yeah.
is quite the same, isn't
Hinduism
it?
is very similar.
Where it's
Yeah.
really about different expressions of the
Of a
divine,
universe,
and
yeah.
I can choose which aspect I want to tap
Yeah.
into, devote myself to. But it's not about the form, but the human mind needs that something to understand.
As explained about how the movement of the philosophy and spiritual lifestyle came about, like how most I think Chinese people, some Chinese friends of mine, they told me that historically the land beyond the Himalayas is considered the heavenly land.
Oh yes, yeah,
see-
yeah, Buddhism.
Buddhism.
It's
yeah.
a Buddhism concept.
Buddha came from the Prince Siddhartha.
Yeah,
originally
it came from India.
Yeah.
India.
So the construct, the hierarchy of if you may, the heavenly hierarchy, right? It's explained. It's almost like a government, right? You have the supreme personality of God at the top, Krishna, which means the all attractive, and he who attracts everybody and to whom everybody is attracted to. And then under that you have almost like the cabinet ministers, right?
Mm-hmm.
I just got this number correct the other day. There are like 32 million demigods, right? Demigods, like what you just did there, twitching your nose. Apparently, there's a demigod who's in charge of that. You're breathing, you're winking, right? So it goes in depth, and then at the end of the day, it says, but they're all useless. The most important is the one at the top.
Oh, how profound
Can you
is
imagine how
that?
many prayers we have to say and candles we have to burn?
That's
So
why
it sounds
that's
way
why-
too
yeah.
much. So for me, yes, I also am a firm believer in exactly what you're saying, that there is one source energy, there is one universal power.
Yeah.
And why not give people the freedom to choose what
Choose
works for them?
Well, you know, like Islam religion is kind of judged in Western society nowadays, but I'm not a follower of any religion. I'm just spiritual, but I also like Islam idea that God is beyond human mentality. You know, as long as we give forms, that's within our own understanding. But God actually is beyond what we can grasp, what we can understand. And I quite like that. Although I don't understand what is beyond our mentality, but I can appreciate the notion that God is that something that is way beyond. And as we have been saying, for humans, we do need forms. We do need something that, you know, concrete, more concrete.
I think that what's important is that
I'm sorry, it always gets me how the week just rolls down into your show, you know, and then it's like,
Yeah, we have like a quite deep conversation every single Friday.
so you caught me. I think for me, it's one of the basic things which I would say was kind of hammered into my head as a kid was that, and the Bible says this way, that the kingdom of God is in man. And my mom always
Yes.
used to share this teaching with me of a ruler will live in his kingdom, not up there on a cloud, which I guess different perspectives. I don't have an issue with people believing that. But then I broke away from that. And for
sorry
me
to
then,
cut it. Believe it or not, it doesn't really matter whether you believe it or not.
well,
That's been another line. For
well,
the-
all I'm saying is I'm not coming from a place of judging others for what they believe, each to their own. But for me, then when I got to the work of Louise, where she spoke about, the one universal power which is inside of us all, I brought those two together for myself. So for me, my expression of God basically is our own, what's the word I'm looking for? Unique divine expression of source, using source in every day to create. It's a creative power, I feel.
It's definitely creative power.
But
You
we can
see-
tap into it.
Yes, and we were created that way, that we have that, we reflect the
I was
power
just
of
about
God
to say
to
that.
create and manifest.
Yes.
And we're not just talking about money and material things, but we just we are direct reflection of God.
We're qualitatively the same,
Yes.
but quantitatively different.
Yes.
Like
Well, perfect.
how a drop of water from the ocean has the same qualities as the ocean,
Mm.
but it's quantitatively, you won't drown in that.
Mm.
So it's said that the spiritual spark, or us, we are qualitatively the same. We
Yeah.
have the same creative power. We have everything.
No, we are literally the spark of the divine.
Yeah.
I was just sitting here, and this image came into my mind of the Big Bang and how the universe is still ever expanding.
And it's just
Do we as
one.
humans need an understanding of this ever expanding world, or is it just enough to know, it's all right, I have my little piece of God and I'm happy?
Yeah, and like how much of peace it gives to human beings to actually have that foundation within, that we are reflection of that we're direct reflection of God. And I think that's what really faith is. Having that peace, that leads to the peace of mind. And then from that point, we can serve others quite well, because the ego won't be in our way. And also, I use this example, that how we function or how we contribute to society and universe and giving back to God is torrent system,
Yes, paying it forward.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm so happy that there's somebody who gets the torrent system and uses it in that way.
Oh, but it is torrent system.
Yeah.
We give something, little bits and pieces, and we create music of
Yeah.
life. Or it doesn't have to be music. It can be movie. It can be artwork. But it is visions and voices of a God. And I hope people are not thinking, we're talking about a particular religion, that we're coming from a more of a open spiritual
Comparative space, I believe.
Yeah.
Because, look, in my background, it was all about, you were born into this religion, you are so honored to be born into this particular sect, because we have the right way and we only have the right way. And I had to break out of that. I mean, I'm talking about my uncles, cousins, everybody being clergy, so it was crazy for me.
I do attract people like you, actually.
And the family, I
so many
think,
people around me are like, oh yeah, my father was that, my grandfather was that. Oh, and you have you have to call yourself a witch.
well, for some reason, we obviously attracted each other to have this conversation today. But yeah, so I know, coming out of that place, I was in a fortunate position where I could break free from only one viewpoint, and I could open myself up to it all and see the universal truths.
Yes.
I think that's what we should focus on.
Yes.
Yeah, and that
Yes.
is very important. Shedding all of that and looking at the ultimate goal. Yeah.
We got about 7 minutes, exactly 7 minutes to go. I usually do one card reading for the guests. Would you like one?
Yes, definitely.
Okay, let me just shuffle the cards. Yeah. Wow, today has been
Interesting.
And that's why I don't have a set of questions. But before we do reading, please share how we can contact you and about your book.
Okay, I'll keep it brief. So, the book's title is Your Mind is a Magic Mirror, subtitled Healing Your Hidden Patterns, Tools for Becoming Whole. Essentially, it is a personal memoir where I share my life story, but not in the format of I was born on this day and life ended here, where I've divided the book into different themes. Like when I was struggling with anxiety, I'll talk about that a bit, and how to uncover your patterns, and then share tools on how to heal your anxiety. Tools for when you don't feel good enough, tools for depression, tools for when you're insecure in a relationship, tools for physical pain. So it's basically written in that format, so a person would be able to also reference through the book to what's relevant for them.
And it will give like practical guidance to.
Yeah, and of course I'll share my story and some other stories in the book. It helps to carry over the information that way, and then there will be practical exercises that the reader can do to actually uncover their hidden patterns. But once you've uncovered the hidden pattern, now you need to know how to heal that hidden pattern, and that will also be in the book. I can currently be contacted via my blog on www.juanodendalblogspot.com. I'll spell that www.juanodendal.blogspot.com, and on there also is a contact form if people would like to contact me.
Cool. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, then let's do our card reading. Oh, wow. Knight of Cups. It's a card of healer, actually. And you know, funny enough, I was thinking of this card earlier because when it comes out upside down, or depending on the context, it is helper syndrome card.
Helper
Syndrome. That's somebody who has to help others in order to make themselves feel good, and that's the borderline that any healers and practitioners have to, you know, we get challenged.
The rescuer archetype.
Yeah, rescuer archetype. And so I thought that's such a profound card. It kind of summarizes what we were talking about earlier today. It's very interesting. I'm definitely not saying like we got helper syndrome. That's not what I'm saying. It's just it's something that we do have to be aware of.
Yes, very definitely. And in actual fact, one of the very interesting tools I've discovered for helping people with rescuer archetype, like us, healers all tend to have it, is in actual fact family constellations.
Oh, yes.
And transgenerational healing. There's a beautiful constellation people can contact me for. I can get them in touch with the right people in their area as well, specifically for healers and practitioners, where you will set yourself up as the rescuer, the victim, and the perpetrator, and how you then move to the center of that triangle, so as to not to buy into any of those three specific archetypes, which really helps healers, practitioners with that self-awareness, preventing us from giving too much as well.
I'd love to bring that practice into Japan. I think Japanese can really benefit from it.
Very interesting, because family constellations, there's a lot of ancestor reverence
yeah, I know.
in the work. So I think in a place like that, I can definitely see something like that taking off there.
Yeah. Japanese need a lot of healing because they, you know, forcefully got cut off from the concept of spirituality and religion. So they need a lot of healing. And I feel there is a lot of work that we can do, you know, like the world can bring to Japan, and Japan can also offer a lot. So anyway, yeah, it's time to say goodbye, and I really would like to thank both of you for joining my show.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah,
It's always a pleasure.
It was really pleasant.
Cool. Today's weekly guest was Juan. Well, again, I said
John.
John. I'm so sorry, John. His book is coming out. Please check it out. Is it going to be available on Kindle?
It's going to be available at the end of March 2019 on Amazon Kindle.
Oh,
it will be
Kindle.
available on your Amazon Kindle, but it will be available in ebook format.
Yeah.
But you'll also be able to order a printed copy.
Okay, awesome. So, so if you have any question about the show, what we discussed today, or tarot cards, or John's book, you can email to mail2@cassiopeia.com, mail2@KASHIOPIA.com. Thank you, everyone, both listeners and guests. It was Interactive Tarot on 108live.radio. I'm Kazway, your guide to tarot cards and holistic wellness. So tune in again next Friday at 11 a.m. Until then, bye!
Bye-bye.